Hey guys, Corrosive here with a radio quickie. Have you ever heard this sound before? That, my friends, is Motorola Data Communications, better known as MDC 1200. You're watching Signals Everywhere. Don't go anywhere. If you happen to be an avid user of software-defined radio or a long-time radio scanner fanatic, you've probably heard this sound more than once. This sound is known as Motorola Data Communications, or better known as MDC. We've seen it in several variants such as MDC 1200 and MDC 600. The only real difference between the two is the baud rate at which the data is sent over the radio system, either 1200 baud in the case of MDC 1200 or 600 baud in the case of MDC 600. This is modulated over the air using something known as AFSK, or audio frequency shift keying. This can be found in other radio systems and modulation types such as APRS, often found in the amateur radio world. MDC is sent over the air using a mark and space tone of 1200 Hz and 1800 Hz. Essentially, we are using the audio frequencies 1200 and 1800 and shifting them back and forth to generate the data within our MDC packet. Depending on how the radio is configured, this data could be sent over the current voice channel in use with the radio or sent on a secondary channel to ensure that the data bursts do not step over other radio traffic on the system. MDC, although fairly old, is pretty feature-rich, and you tend to see this in commercial environments as well as public safety, where you will find a number of benefits that make it quite desirable to the public safety sector. One of the most common things you'll see MDC used for is radio identification. Every radio on a given system can be assigned a 4-digit unique identification number, and this number is then sent using MDC either at the beginning of the transmission,
KR0SIV to base, do you copy?
or at the end of a transmission.
KR0SIV for radio check to base, how copy?
This makes it incredibly easy for both dispatchers and other radio system users to quickly identify what radio sent a given transmission. Speaking of public safety, another great use for MDC is the emergency button. Motorola radios in particular tend to have an orange button placed at the top of the radio next to the antenna port. This emergency button can be configured on a per radio basis so that when pushed, it can either send an alert over the existing radio channel to dispatch with both the identifier of the radio in addition to an emergency flag that the CAD system or computer-aided dispatch can use to alert the dispatcher that there is an emergency situation with a given officer's radio. In addition, this may be configured so that rather than transmitting this on the primary channel, the alert can be sent over a secondary channel to ensure that the emergency alert does not step on any other voice traffic, as well as ensure that voice traffic does not step on the emergency signal itself. Another use you will find with MDC is that of the status or radio check functionality. This gives a dispatcher with a computer-aided dispatch system the ability to send out from their console a radio check packet to any radio on the system using their unique radio's identifier. Depending on the configuration of that radio, it can either ignore this packet or respond with an acknowledgement. This acknowledgement packet is a great way to find out if the radio is still turned on or if it has left the given service range that the radio can operate within. Being able to check on the status of a radio is an invaluable tool. However, in the case of a police department or a fire department or something of that nature, let's say a radio was stolen from that department. This could have many potential drawbacks, such as a criminal being able to listen in to exactly what an officer is doing, as well as interrupt that officer's communications with dispatch. In order to mitigate this problem, MDC has something known as selective inhibit or stun. This allows a radio dispatcher to send a specially crafted packet out into the radio system containing both the ID of their console as well as the ID of a given offending radio. Once that offending radio receives that packet, it will essentially play dead. You can swap the batteries, power it on and off, and you will not be able to revive that radio. The only thing that will bring the radio back would be that dispatch console sending out a similar packet with a unstun or uninhibit flag at the end. This will cause the radio to restart and act as it would normally. MDC, or Motorola Data Communications, is generally only found on Motorola Communications radios, as far as we know it is still protected by patent. However, As we've seen, some other manufacturers such as Kenwood and Vertex Standard, which was later acquired by Motorola, have begun adding MDC compatibility to their radios. While you typically only see MDC used in public safety and commercial radio, you can also use it in the amateur radio and GMRS world as well. In my case, I happen to hold a GMRS license for my family, and I have passed out some radios to some key members of them. However, because I am at the end of the day liable for how they use those radios under my license, each one has been given a unique MDC ID. This way, if I ever need to, I can use the MDC tool that you saw earlier in my video to stun any radio that might be operating outside of the lawful use of my radio license. I hope you all enjoyed the video and found it very informative. If you know anybody else who's interested in MDC or radio communications in general, especially software-defined radio, please be sure to like the video so I know you enjoyed it and share it with a friend so we can learn together. I release a new video every Tuesday morning at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time on the topics of software-defined radio and radio communications in general. If you'd like to support this channel, please consider adding me on Patreon. All of my patrons receive benefits, some of which may include behind-the-scenes content, early access to videos, and much more. Thank you dearly for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.